seek refuge in God Almighty from the accursed Satan. In the name of God, the compassionate and the merciful. May the peace and blessings of God be upon Muhammad and his blessed family. In class number 29, we will address several of the major errors that we are missing. And this is the second to last class. And tomorrow, inshallah, will be the last class. We may extend it a bit to address some errors and then finish it tomorrow. Well, the error number 29 is the lack of religious Muslim scholars. That means if we want to expand Islam, if we want to disseminate Islam, we must consider the acceptable format in the West. In the West, when they want to bring a new idea or propose a new concept, it has its specific format, which generally involves universities and, on the other hand, social media and communication channels that often serve to disconnect the community. Well, then we as Muslims who want to engage in the dissemination of Islam must take advantage of all resources and means to spread Islam. So, in the first step, we need to have access to university students and universities. It is quite interesting that in many universities in the USA and in Latin America, the field of Islamic studies is taught by Orientalists. Who are the Orientalists? In most cases, they are not Muslims. They are among Jews, Baha'is, Christians, Protestants, Pentecostals, and Evangelicals. This means that a person who does not believe in Islam will represent Islam at the university and will present Islam. So how is he going to present it? Of course, in a way that is unacceptable, then in an unfair way in most cases. Then Islam will be presented by seeking the maximum of the defects of Islam in the universities. So, this lack of qualified religious scholars means a religious person who has at least a doctorate or postdoctoral degree. When we talk about a doctorate, we are referring to that level of scholars. Master's degree nowadays, brother, a master's degree means nothing. The truth is, a bachelor's degree is nothing. We are talking about a degree, an academic level that serves as a reference for scholars. Scholars? How many books does this person have? Let me tell a story. Once we were in Colombia. At that time, the brothers had written a letter to a director of a quite important university. I believe it was Santo Tomás, a Catholic university, but very prestigious in Colombia. So we were already scheduled to meet with the director, the head of the university, after more than, we can say, a month, because that person is very important and very busy. After a month, I went with a brother who was a butcher from the Islamic Center, with another brother who was a director, good people, young guys like us. We went through the first office, entering the second building, entering the third building, there, like this, passing through hallways, then buildings. Oh God, when are we going to reach the office of that boss, the great academic? Then, from there we enter. Note that in order to give me the appointment, the first thing they asked for was my resume. Does this sheikh mean what he has studied, what books he has published? It is important, brother. It means that if you do not have academic study, they do not give you a voice. This is normal in the world, here in Iran. Come to give a talk. And who is it? Go ahead. What are your experiences? What are your works? Your curriculum? Where are you? So they asked me. I was quite ostentatious, right? May God forgive us, but sometimes that ostentation is necessary. Yes, it is necessary. So these works of Sheikh Qomi, these are the books, those articles in Persian, classes, course, thesis, defended. The Sheikh was the director of those master's theses, the director of those doctoral theses, and was an arbitrator for these master's and doctoral theses. Well, then they let us through, and we arrived before the supreme head of the university. Well, the gentleman who was a priest, a very respected and prestigious clergyman, began to listen to us in front. Who is that gentleman? Thinking that I don't speak Spanish or not much, then the brothers started to present, and first that brother, a companion, who was a butcher from the Islamic Center, a good guy with a pure heart, but the way he spoke was not academic, no, just normal. Then he started to introduce me, but that priest didn't like it because he spoke normally, not with an academic degree, and he wasn't introducing me as an academic. Oh, that's our chef. He's a really good guy. He's really cool, Yusen. So, as the director, the president of the university got upset, starting with body language, saying, "Shut up, I don't want to hear anymore." So, I stayed quiet, just waiting to see what was going to happen. The director of the Islamic Center began to present the topic well and everything, but he was still not satisfied to hear all of that. So he asked me what I had studied, boy. That's what he told me. I said, well, I have studied at the university. And what have you studied? Well, in the master's program in comparative religions, in the doctorate on Christianity. And he told me, you come from Iran, studying Christianity. Christianity in Iran studying Christianity. What does it have for us? So I said, very well, wait, I have also studied at the Qom seminary with the student of Imam Khomeini, Ayatollah Sobhani, my teacher. So you have studied something? It means he was expecting something from the original seminar as well, alongside the title. So I said, well, I studied at the Gomez Seminary, like the Seminary of Salamanca, the University of Salamanca of that time. So what have you studied? This jurisprudence, philosophy, mysticism, this, how many years? 15 years, 20 years. And he already started asking me when he heard me speaking Spanish and what I had studied, along with the curriculum, with the degree, all together. He said, go ahead. How many does he do? How many talks can you collaborate with us? I said, well, whatever you put. And he arranged a conference for us at a university in economics, another university for literature, art, and another university for theologians and everything. It means that one day it was filled with one more interesting thing. And I said, stay for lunch. I invite you at the university. Because from morning until night, the program was full, going from one faculty to another, from this to another, and so on. I said, look, I have my students who within the Islamic Center were teaching the young people how to spread Islam. There were about 10 to 15 young people from many countries. So I said, well, I have some colleagues for lunch. Lunch is free. We should take advantage of it, right? So that's from my own city, that we don't let a single lunch go to waste. And if it's halal lunch, yes. I told the president that we are going to eat fish. He said yes. Well, fish with the lawful scales and everything. Well, then we agreed on that. And I said, look, I have companions too. He asked, how many are there? I said, well, I am a sheikh and I have those students who study with me, and it is necessary for them to participate in these scales. And well, how many are there? There are 15. And well, I also tell his secretary that sheikh has 15 guests for lunch. Well, we already went and the photos are available and you can see them on our Telegram channel, among others. Well, it means what the format required, the model. Every curriculum of a sheikh is required in an academic format. Brother, what we lack is academic. And look, dear brothers, we need religious individuals who can express themselves in an academic format. Introduction, questions, answers, PowerPoint presentation, whatever it may be, but it should be within the academic format, in properly spoken Spanish. I say the level that Shakespeare has, the least to speak Spanish should be more equal. I don't give myself 100%. No, I give myself 40% or 30%. So, dear brothers, we need religious leaders, preferably Latinos, who have learned and obtained a doctoral or postdoctoral degree. Here in Iran, there is a postdoctoral program at level 5 in the seminary, but they need to learn 2000 and then return. And when they come back, they should remain in the area in Latin America. Look, dear brothers, the truth is, let's be honest, that is what we lack. When we do not have a voice in universities, we do not have a voice among intellectuals. A couple of people like long-bearded, crazy Wahhabis, or those called tablai, cannot represent Islam in Latin America in an academic environment. One must speak in an academic, intellectual format in order to convey the message. So they, alongside the universities, can also establish religious universities, which you call the Jose Seminary, to educate Latino religious leaders in the area. This is quite important and necessary. What is ideal? Look, the ideal is that we have an academic religious leader with a doctoral degree in every major city in Latin America. In some more cities, such as Mexico City, São Paulo, Buenos Aires, and other cities with more than 10 million inhabitants like Bogota, there is a need for more religious presence. But let's talk about the minimum number of religious scholars needed in Latin America. I say the minimum is 3,000 academic religious scholars with a doctoral degree in different fields. One with a doctorate in philosophy, another in mysticism, who are presentable and speak Spanish. Look, brother, how did Christianity come to Latin America? How? Let's be honest. Look, from 1492, yes, until around 1808 is the period of dissemination. But well, it's not exactly 1492 because the priests officially arrived in 1509. 1508 to 1509 means about 18 to 15 years. After the conquerors, the priests stayed and remained in the conquered, or rather, invaded area. Well, during the 300 years, let's say 300 years, of the church's presence alongside the state, or rather, the church alongside the invaders. So let's look at the history. I will give you the reference for you to study it. See the history of the church in Latin America by Gutierrez, among other great masters of the history of the church in Latin America. There it is. So you will see that every year, the monasteries, seminaries, and religious universities of Spain sent missionary clergy to Latin America with degrees, with masters and doctoral degrees. And how many did they send annually for 300 years? We are talking about a figure between 7 to 15,000 annually, 7 to 15,000 annually, and for 3 centuries. We are talking about how 1 million to 3 million missionary religious figures that Spain trained arrived, stayed, committed their crimes, and alongside that, carried out their missions and spread their beliefs, even though Islam does not agree with that. However, forced evangelization is a great mistake, but they undertook that great task and sent many religious figures. So, if Islam also wants to expand that, it is the only way to send young religious individuals with a doctorate who speak Spanish and possess the characteristics that I will mention first, which is that they should be single. Why? Because I am married to a girl here who is Iranian, and her family is pending. My wife is the best, but she is concerned about her family. Her whole family lives in Qom. Even so, I cannot uproot myself from Qom and go to emigrate to live in Latin America. Why? Because my family, my children, and then your daughters-in-law, your sons-in-law, your grandchildren, they all want to stay in Iran because they belong to Iran, things like that. And we lack that culture of immigration. We lack it quite a bit, I will confess to you. For me, it is impossible. But whether it is a single young man or a religious girl with a degree, it is also important to talk about that. A single girl of 30 years, 35 years, the boy can also go to Latin America. They start teaching Islam and Islamic studies, the history of Islam, Islamic law, everything related to Islam, economics, psychology, sociology, politics, everything related to Islam. Because she is a professional or he is a professional, they can teach. First, whoever has their salary at the university has a salary. They will not be dependent on being a subject of one country or another, a mercenary of this country or that one. He is not going to be independent because he has his salary and all the intelligence services of that country. He will be at ease. This has remained here. 2001 has gotten married here and will get married in this country. For example, go to Argentina, go to Colombia, and marry an Argentine, a Colombian, or a Mexican. He has his salary, he dedicates himself to that country, and he stays there for his whole life. He should write books, give talks, and explain the topic well, the Islamic matters for the people, for the scholars, adapting, or rather, presenting Islam according to the understanding of those people. This is quite important. Then that person can establish institutes, studies, study centers, research centers, and even libraries or seminars, ultimately leading to Islamic universities, just as Christians did. Unfortunately, the reality is quite different. Very, very few religious men, or let's say many of them married to girls from their own country, with a Lebanese girl, with an Iranian girl, with an Arab girl, go to Latin America, stay for a few years, and then the girl starts to complain, "Oh, let's go back. I feel bad. I miss my mom. We are going back to our worst. This is how you brought me to Latin America. I couldn't cut it, please." They are going to go back. They are going to go back to Iraq. They are going to go back to Iraq. They are going to go back to their country. They can't stand it. Because look, brother, there is a very famous saying in Iran. It asks where you are from. The person replies, "I am not married yet." It means that after I get married, you will know where I am from. So we need, whether they are religious, Iranians, Arabs, Turks, whatever, to marry Latin girls. Or she is a Lebanese, Arab, Iranian girl studying Islam with a degree who goes back and marries a Latino boy, just like that. But unfortunately, what is the reality? First, the religious are very, 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 very few. Those who are going, for now, do not have a degree, a doctorate or less, and are married, not single, and do not know Spanish. This is the worst. Some, after 20 years, still do not speak Spanish. Those who are Arab speak it poorly, with many spelling mistakes and numerous errors in the words they use. And those who are Persian, even worse. They think for half an hour to say a word. Some of them are my students who have escaped from studying because they said, "Oh, Sheikh, it's hard to study so much. Because in my academy, in my study center, they must come at 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. And at noon, we will only give them bread with a little milk or yogurt, something very moderate and modest, so that they are strong when they want to spread Islam. Sometimes we also give them some fruits like cucumber." That's my opinion. But well, that is the bitter reality. And this is why you will see that Islam is not advancing in Latin America. Look, dear brothers, I am just going to give you an example of the great priests who came to Latin America. This leaves us to think we leave behind fanaticism. It must be acknowledged that they made an effort. They put in a lot of effort. It is true. The person who sows reaps. You sow, your generation reaps. The great teachers of the church, the great priests, the truth, made a great sacrifice. And now they are. I'm not saying that everything was good. No, they also committed crimes. But they are now reaping the good and the bad that they have sown. I will give just one example. There are many. In my book about the history of the church, there is a chapter on the great missionaries in the church in Latin America. One of them is Julian Garces, 1452 to 1541, 89 years old. Say 90 years. He lived for 90 years. Interesting, isn't it? He was a Spanish Dominican priest, born in the Kingdom of Aragon. He studied at the universities of Salamanca and Paris, where he was highly distinguished. He taught theology at the convent in Zaragoza, where he earned the title of master. He later studied philosophy, theology, and Latin in Paris. He was a preacher for Charles of Spain, serving as a royal court preacher there, here in Iran, or in some Islamic country. If a person has 1,000 titles and, for example, is the imam of the Friday prayer in an important city, if you say, "Sir, come learn Spanish to go to Latin America to spread the message," what does he say? "I have so many commitments and I don't have time." It's true, there is no time, but there in Spain, they say our priority is Latin America. So what happens? He is the king's preacher and says, "I am going to Latin America." How old is he? 75 years old. He does not say, I am old, I will not spread the message. He does it. How many religious people today? All of them. Do you know in Latin America, how many have you seen that speak Spanish? Yes, one is my father-in-law, just a cousin, bishop. First bishop of New Spain, in the city of Puebla de Mexico. First in the diocese of Tlaxcala, in 1525. Pope Clement VII appointed him Bishop of Tlaxcala. Arriving in 1525 and later in the Diocese of Yucatan, he held his position as bishop from October 13, 1525 until his death on December 7, 1541, when he was about 75 years old. He traveled to Latin America, stayed, and settled. He founded the 2000 University, a religious university, a seminary in the city of Puebla, and established many study centers. And this is thanks to this person who made a great effort. When he was 73 years old, he did not hesitate to set out for the Indies, taking up his position 2 years later. During the time he was in charge of the Tlaxcalteca bishopric, he stood out for the care given to the protection of the Indians, as well as for the erection of temples and assistance services. The result of such effort was the construction of a hospital on the road from Veracruz to Mexico and the Cathedral Temple of Puebla de Los Angeles, a name that was later adopted by its diocese. Imagine, a person who struggles, works hard, is an old wise man, does everything possible, and defends the Indians, the Mexicans, does this, does that, and you will see the fruit. Today we have Mexico as a country with a majority of Catholics. If you want to spread Islam, brother, you have to move like this. Staying in Iran or staying there, not studying, nothing happens, brother. Nothing can be done. So, imagine, from the age of 70, he starts the dissemination in Latin America until he is 90 years old, with 20 years of activities in his old age. But what about us? So we must change that great mistake and that reality. Because I say, with that reality, we are not going anywhere. We need to change our mindset. We need many thousands of religious people, Latinos, Iranians, Arabs, Iraqis, Turks, Pakistanis, and Indians from Hindustan, but they must study. Islam cannot be spread with fanaticism. Through intellectualism and dialogue, Islam can be disseminated. But what a shame that we have reached era number 30. What is it? That the dissemination of Islam is limited to within the mosques. We have said what that great priest did. He founded a hospital. How many hospitals have you founded that are established and funded by Muslims for the service of poor and lower middle class people? How many hospitals do you know? How many schools have you built for poor people? Is that the question? Does it mean that I should see the results of Islam, the benefits of Islam in my real life? How many Muslim mayors have given their lives, made sacrifices to defend the people, and done their best for the people? How many examples can you present to me? Very few, right? How many counselors? How many representatives in Latin America? That is lacking, brothers. Unfortunately, we have limited Islam to the mosques, to the Islamic centers, very limited. And religious people who only know about religion know nothing else but religion, nor can they help with educational problems, nor with a plan for sexual life, nor with any trade. What the Jesuits did when they arrived in northern Argentina and southern Brazil was that when they founded settlements, they taught the Aborigines, the natives, various trades such as carpentry, agriculture, blacksmithing, and many other things. But what does a Muslim religious figure know? He doesn't know about baking. He doesn't know how to make kebabs, nothing. So what? He doesn't know any languages. We need Muslim doctors. You will see grassroots churches like the Jesuits in Africa and in South America who taught trades and industry and thus were able to start founding work centers, businesses, serving the people of Latin America, Salesian universities. You will see what they are doing. Technical studies alongside technology. The series of Minuto de Dios universities that are doing social work, charity, and organized charity. This is important, brother. Caring for the various poor. It means leaving the mosque. Leaving the mosque. If you want the dissemination of Islam, that is outside the mosque. Look, brother, get it into your head. The dissemination of Islam is not within the mosque. Put it up really big, above the mosque. 2001 this. Let's go to the next error because we are naming this for the class. But last morning, the last class. Error number 31, the seal, outdated means of disseminating Islam. What does it mean? Unfortunately, many still believe that Islam can be spread through books. Are we going to publish more books? But who reads books? You will see the youth. Each one has a tablet in their hand. Only audiovisual, no more. Only videos, only cartoons. The more intellectual ones will watch motion graphics. They will see their classes. In the videos, which are you, it means receive a class in video, no more. Other video games, other porn, but you, the most distinguished, the most intellectuals in that class, like you intellectuals, receive the audiovisual classes. Here now, in front of me, there are 2 cell phones, a professional camera, a screen, a laptop, and 2 microphones, all of this. And then I edit it myself, publish it, and share it on social media. Just imagine how many religious people we have in Latin America who do this and know how to do it. The Islam of the books from that time, brother, goodbye. That's for the 70s and 80s. Nowadays, audiovisual Islam and the outdated means of spreading Islam, brother, do not work. You have seen during the coronavirus, the mosques and centers were closed and people were at home waiting for some sheikh to come and save them. Some sheikh, some way to teach Islam to their children. Do you see it in the social media we have created for the people? Very little. It is not organized at all. Nothing. That's horrible, brother. We need to organize the dissemination of Islam into groups for young people, groups for children, for the elderly, for non-Muslims, for Muslims, and Islamic education. Now, a serious problem that many people had is that suddenly many men who were at work due to the coronavirus had to stay at home. So staying at home for so long is like enduring a wife who complains and a husband who only demands. So you fight and fight, and you and I, how have we helped them get out of that fight that comes from the coronavirus and staying so many hours at home? And how to handle the mischievous children at home? What is your plan to serve the people? The Islam that is tangible serves my life. I will worship him, I will hold him, I will admire him. But useless Islam, I don't like it. And you don't like Islam either. In fact, in life, in practice, all Muslims should be disseminators of Islam, not just the religious ones, but everyone. We in Islam do not have a hierarchy of the religious. It is not the church, brother. It is not the business of religion. In Islam, everyone must study and teach what they know to everyone. This is the teaching of the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, peace be upon him. All the companions would come, learn, teach, learn, teach. We do not have this idea that you are a sheikh, you are the qualified one, you are this, you are a religious authority. There is no religious authority in Islam, brother. Keep that very clear. Everyone is a religious authority to the extent of what they know. To the extent of what they know. If you don't know, shut your mouth and study. If you know, teach what you know. Clear enough, brother. Of course, we have the prophets, we have the imams, we have the scholars who are highly respected in Islam. We must refer to the scholars. We have the ayatollahs, that's for sure. But this is not about limiting the dissemination of Islam as a business, as it is for us the religious. No. In Islam, we all have the responsibility to defend Islam and spread it in the world, on social media and in the media. Islam cannot be limited, neither in mosques nor among the religious. Keep that very clear. So, that question we must answer is how we are disseminating Islam. What are the means for each of us to spread Islam? How are we dedicating time to disseminate Islam? If you don't do it, I won't do it. Nobody does it, period. Very clear. Who wants to wait for someone else to do it? You and I? That's it. If you start today, you raise it. Dedicate time to the dissemination of Islam, I will do it. Then in the end, everyone does it. If you don't do it, I won't do it. Nothing changes. It says if you want to reform something, start with yourself. Start with yourself. If you are upset and suffering, oh, we are a minority, so seek companions. Then look for someone who is embracing Islam. That has its solution. Error number 32, neglecting. Sports. What? Sports. Yes, brother, sports. In the dissemination of Islam. Many times we have in the area of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that the Prophet of Islam would go where the young people were playing. They had a physical competition, a competition that could be any sport, which today is referred to as sport. Back then, they called it physical exercises, ariyada. Even today in Arabic, it is called ariyada, physical exercises. So, in this competition that the young people are so enthusiastic about, the Prophet of Islam taught the youth Islamic things. It means that in that sweet place for young people, everyone is open to receiving messages. It's not that we are going to sit down and I want to preach to them. No, no, no. That while you are also among them, playing with the children, with the youth, while you are playing among them, training them, while being in sports, you can teach things. I have a friend who has been one of the #1 disseminators in Iran. And who is he? A judo coach. Is judo one of the martial arts? It is. One of the top judo coaches in Iran. He emerged as one of the 10 most prominent referees in the country. He is a religious figure, puts on his judo uniform, and goes in playing with the young people, running with the youth, teaching them judo techniques, a martial art. And when the time for prayer arrives, everyone prays together, a collective prayer. He is an imam and leads the mosque. He leads the mosque and conducts the prayer for the youth. As we see in Iran, the most successful religious figures are those who are coaches or athletes who engage in some sport, whether it be volleyball, football, or whatever. But they are involved in the sport. Look, the appeal of the sport is perfect. It is very good. And through that, young people, when they are spending their energy, already have an open mind. They have emerged from their disappointment in a limited house. So, this is the perfect moment and place for the dissemination of Islam. How unfortunate that we neglect it in the sports stadiums. And sometimes we neglect to have sports among Muslims. But be careful, brother. Many places in sports in the West are places where entry for Muslims is haram. Like swimming pools. Why are swimming pools mixed? With men and women together? Not naked, I mean with clothing that is inappropriate according to Islamic standards. So in Islam, one cannot go to a swimming pool, nor participate in a gym either. In the gym, women are half naked. It is not allowed, brother. Pool, gym. But there are some sports that don't have a problem, such as volleyball. In soccer, I don't know. In martial arts. What is the problem? With how horse racing is run. There are plenty of sports that are fine, but there are sports that require a type of clothing that is very tight, naked, half naked, or somewhat revealing. That is Islamic. For example, a religious person is going to be a coach for the girls in the gym, and the girls, the outfits are tight, and I was training and well, I am teaching. This is false, brother. It goes against the ethical codes of Islam. That is haram, it is not allowed. But then, that also needs to be taken care of. So, error number 32 was neglecting the topic of sports, which is a great access point, especially in Latin America. I remember once I was in Chile. It was a night of decree or something like that. It was in the middle of Ramadan, an important night for us. So, after lifting, they told me, Sheikh, there is no talk from you tonight. Is there no reason? Because tonight we have the World Cup or something like that. It was a soccer game between the national team of Chile and Bolivia or something like that. It was a rainy day, but still, The Usan Stadium was filled with people, and they put a screen in the Islamic Center and Sheikh, go ahead, you two, see how this game is. And I said, well, thank you. I never watched soccer, but oh well, everyone is going. So I went to my performance in the center and they stayed to watch the soccer. It is too important for them. For many people in Latin America, soccer is quite important. I don't know. Sports are pretty important. This is a good opportunity for the dissemination of Islam, brother. A very good opportunity. Because when a person is playing soccer and everything, their mind is open. It is the best time, the best opportunity to reach out, to build friendships, to start attracting young Christians, Muslims, or whoever. Through this, you can connect with many young people. Well, let's go to error number 33. Neglecting art a bit more. Look, brother, human beings love art. Well, there are arts that are not allowed in Islam and are not considered art. Like dance, like music, it is haram, as well as anything that involves nudity. But there are more things. There are techniques in art that you can use. For example, having a beautiful voice and singing, reciting with a lovely voice is an art and attracts many people. When a religious person comes and sings, it fascinates the people. That melody you are singing is perfect. We also lack art and technology, like cinema, like cartoons, novels, series, and soap operas. How many soap operas do we have in favor of Islam? Do you see it? You are going to see the film about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, made by an Iranian, Majid Majidi, that great Iranian film director. The truth was magnificent, a work of art, but at the same time, it was perfect in the dissemination of the list and shows everything that we want to explain. It presents it in a movie. People, brother, like to read novels and watch soap operas, works of literature, beautiful things, to see beauty, subtlety. Look, something subtle, tender, soft, lovely. Indirect messages in art. Sometimes I am preaching directly, I attack, but this does not work, brother. When the message is more sublime, more, I call it underground, more hidden within an art, the painting will be more acceptable. Perfect architecture. But there is still a long way to go, brother. How can we present Islam in a first indirect and beautiful way with a layer of art? Because art is always welcome everywhere in the world. Because human beings love art, the beauty of art. Not that you are going to unmask a made-up woman and say that she is a disseminator of Islam. No, I am talking about things that do not go against immoral ethics, but are also, in turn, art. I do not agree with what they do. Sometimes the Turkish embassy brings a guitar, sings music, dances, this in the line of Islam, right? Sometimes the Iranians also create an ambassador. I remember that once the greatest success of Iran was when during the time of President Fulani, they brought that group, My Musician, and in Altamira Square in Venezuela, they were performing in the year 2005-2004. They came singing and playing loud music, and more than 5,000 people were dancing to the Iranian music. And he said that was the great success of Iran, 2009. Dancing, singing Persian, and this is not the success. Success is when you make people turn to God, return to God, and open their hearts to God. But with music, with dance, the heart hardens, darkens, and distances itself from God. That is not success. That is failure. But well, some think that the indirect message can be conveyed through art, whether it be a piece of literature, an audiovisual work, a cartoon, motion graphics, whatever it is. But it has to be art, brother, in the communication techniques that we have. Well, error number 34 is disseminators. Without effective communication management techniques. There are disseminators who have neither learned nor been instructed in this. Because there are techniques, brother. For a human being to communicate with another human being, that person has access, they have keys. This is called effective communication. It has techniques. how to start talking to that person who does not take a defensive position, how to speak to them, how to guide a person to their mindset and then turn them towards Islam. These are techniques. They are techniques, brother. No, the things you said, I carry it innately. No, it's that you have to learn. I learned it. You should learn. We all must learn. Now, it has been about a year since I have been teaching at the university a subject called effective communication management. Up to today, we have given more than 38 classes, but profound ones, on how effective communication management means how I can manage communication to convey my message. It means it's a format that will make your message sweet and tasty. For example, very simple, body language. Body language means body language. Once I speak like this, dear brothers, today we want to talk about Islam. And again, today we want to talk about Islam. Look, the voice, gestures, everything has an effect, and that is taught. It is learned. How to move the hand? For example, I am going to speak like this. One of the techniques of effective communication is that we talk about Islam in an active format. A person who cannot speak in an active format cannot convey the message. Without anything, without gestures, without raising their voice, without lowering their voice, without eye gestures. You watch one of my videos, how many times I am moving my eyes, forehead, lips, nose, turning around, moving. The gestures of Sheikh are so significant that once a famous Iranian broadcaster came to my class in Qom, and after the class, I asked him why he had come. I thought, well, he is interested in Islamic matters, and then he came again. So I asked him after class, what's wrong, young man? Why are you coming to my class? And he said, look, I went to a body language class, and they asked me, I don't know, $50 to participate in that class, which was 10 classes. I was thinking about how not to pay, but still receive that class. Until I saw you were giving a practical class on body language in your class. How you shout, how you raise your voice, how you move your hand, how you make people say things, how you engage your audience. So I came to learn this. Body language, brother, is necessary. Those are techniques of effective communication, and we do not know them. How to start the dialogue. How to make it not offensive so that it doesn't feel like an aggression. How to start talking about Islam in a subtle way. To soften the message, but neither change it, nor we can say distort it. No, just soften it. For example, you want to give meat to your child. How do you prepare that meat? The meat is just meat, but how do you turn it into such a tasty, sweet, and good format that your child, who always complained and didn't want to eat meat, now enjoys it in this new format? And we need effective communication techniques. We are even going to have a course, inshallah, in the future on effective communication. It is quite important. It will help you in your business, in your job, at university, in your relationship, with your partner, with your children, with everything. Because all human beings are in communication, full communication. How can you make people really enjoy communicating with you in a way that feels natural? You can do it. You can do it. And you are going to learn, brother. And we will leave the rest of the mistakes for tomorrow, dear brothers. We will leave mistake 35 for tomorrow. The error number 35, which will be your task to prepare, is sos eos. Look, brother, there are deeply rooted doubts in the minds of Christian brothers. In the head, no. In our head, there are many doubts. These doubts will distance us from Islam. What are these doubts? Think about it. Tomorrow we will talk about that, and may God bless you. Tomorrow, the last class on the errors in the dissemination of Islam will be class number 30, and there we will wait for 2 weeks. The brothers do the homework, and again, inshallah, with the permission of God, we will see how we continue with the course. God willing, may God bless you. a big hug. May the peace and blessing of God be with all of you.